Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Kostin, Speaker of the House for 2019-2020. I'll be spending the next few minutes giving you a short briefing on what is to be expected for this year's House of Delegates. We're living in very unusual times, and the conversion of our convention is just one example of the changes that we have to adapt to. We're hoping that your virtual experience will be just as fulfilling as our live event. Registration for the convention. We needed for all delegates to register for the annual meeting. You did not have to register for the entire convention, and you could have elected to enroll for the one-day option. The House will be meeting on Thursday, July 9th, 2020. A schedule is available on the FPA website. In terms of registration for the House of Delegates, in addition to registering for the convention, we also needed for all delegates to register for the House. This included information from your organizations so that the proper allocation of delegates could be determined and we would know where our quorum requirements would be. A call for delegates form was published in Florida Pharmacy Today several times and provided by email to the invited and affiliated leadership of record on file in the FPA office. The deadline for registrations, to allow time for adequate preparation and to also make sure that your delegates received information needed to make informed decisions during House proceedings, we had to set all registration deadlines for participation in the House and also for the convention for House of Delegates to be June 9th, 2020. The staff has set up a special RSVP site for checking in as a delegate. You can find the RSVP link in the FPA calendar that will activate on Wednesday, July 8th, 2020. You will need to sign in with your username and password to see the RSVP tool. There's a link to the RSVP tool in the House of Delegates group directory. You must also be a registered delegate. Will there be a separate check-in for each session of the House? Yes. Please make sure that you RSVP at least 30 minutes before the House session begins. When you sign into your member profile, look for the My Profile options. One of the options that I bring to your attention is the Groups function. Select that link. Next, select FPA Committees and Councils, House of Delegates. If you landed on the page that has my photo on it, you've come to the right place. Everything that you will need for House business has been placed here. As a reminder, if you registered for the House of Delegates, you received an email with a direct link to this information resource. This information was also provided to the leadership of our invited and affiliated organizations that we have in our records and have not registered for the House of Delegates and/or annual meeting. Because of the unusual circumstances we're facing this year with our House of Delegates, we have to handle floor amendments and nominations differently than we have done in the past. I will be providing reminder instructions during my opening announcements to the House. All proposed amendments and floor nominations were to be received in the FPA office by noon on Monday, July 6th. Messaging to that effect was sent to registered delegates and leadership of record. At this point, I'm going to hand it off to Michael, who's going to let everybody know how Zoom is going to work. Michael?
Thank you, Speaker Kostin. Appreciate you handing this off to me. So you probably see my image in front of the Marco Island Resort. We will be there in 2023. Unfortunately, we will not be there this year. And I am not there now, I'm just there virtually. So let's maybe give you a brief orientation on how Zoom works. Many of you have already participated in some of our Zoom sessions that we've had, including our educational programs. And through the webinar format, it works a little bit different than what you're used to in the meeting format. So if you have registered for the House of Delegates, you should be receiving reminder messages. You get one at least 1 week before the event, so you should have gotten one last Thursday. You get a second reminder the day prior to, which will be this Wednesday, and you'll get one final reminder that will be an hour before the event starts. In the email, you'll see 2 links. One link will allow you to download the event into your calendar that you're using. The other email will be a link to join from a PC, iPad, iPhone, or Android device. So it's a direct link. It's exclusive just for you and is not something that's easily shareable. How will your Zoom screen look once you get in? So if you are signing in first thing in the morning, the Zoom host will have to broadcast for everyone to be able to see. So you might be sitting in a waiting area before the event starts. You want to make sure that your computer is turned on at least half hour to 45 minutes before the meeting starts, because some computers take a while to load in all the processes that it needs to run properly. So you want your computer fully running by the time the event starts. So this is a screen that you'll probably land on. We will not be able to see you, but you will be able to see us in any material that we're putting in front of you for your review, including the resolutions or any documents that the speaker would like you to see. You'll notice in the lower left-hand corner of your screen something that looks like a microphone with a red line crossed through it. It means that you are arriving in the webinar or in the House of Delegates session in muted mode only. And so an opportunity for you to have a conversation or to make your thoughts known is available by using the other tools that we have available on your screen that you will see in front of you. So this is a blown up portion of the lower portion of the screen that has the microphone button on there. So if you wish to be recognized by the speaker, what you do is you will raise your hand just by selecting the button that looks like a raised palm, and that sends a message to the host and to the speaker that you would like to be heard on a particular issue. The House of Delegates Board of Directors will be monitoring this area, and if they see your hand raised, they will select the tool that would allow you to have your screen unmuted. We still won't be able to see you, but we'll be able to hear you. Just make sure that once we open up and allow you an opportunity to provide comment, that you unmute your microphone if we were unable to do that. So not only do we have to set you to be allowed to speak, but you also have to unmute your microphone. We may not be able to get to you right away, but we'll do our very best to bring you in at the time that you have an opportunity to do this. This also includes those individuals or those delegates who will be presenting resolutions. Watch the schedule very closely, watch the resolution list, because as yours is coming up next, you will be unmuted and allowed to speak. Once you've made your presentation, and the speaker will be timing you, once your presentation is done, you'll be muted back in, back out, and the discussions will continue further. You have an opportunity to raise questions of the issues or to provide debate in the chat room. So the chat, you just hit the chat button. It'll bring up a dialog box to allow you to provide comment to the House. So the chat function simply works. Once you select the chat box to enter in the chat room, you'll see a chat box that will pop up, and you will be able to provide comment to all panelists that will be monitoring everything that's going on. Now, when you raise your hand to be heard, if for whatever reason you may have heard a comment earlier on a particular issue that addressed your issue, So if you no longer wish to speak, you can lower your hand by selecting the same button. Once you raise your hand, the host will unmute you, and then once you ask your question, the host will then mute your microphone to allow others an opportunity to speak. Make sure that once you have addressed the House, that you lower your hand so that we don't inadvertently try to bring you in to make a comment that you've already made or you do not wish to make. There's also a section in there called Q&A. The Q&A function allows the host or the speaker and the House Board of Directors to assist in responding to questions. We will be working to support the speaker as we facilitate this very unusual way of doing a House of Delegates, and we hope that you indulge us as we work through this process. It's unique, it is unusual, but it can be done. And with your cooperation, we'll have a very successful House session. In the Q&A, you can type your questions in. They will be monitored by the House Board of Director members, and in some cases, your questions will be orally answered or directed to the individual that needs to answer your question, or the question may be typed in and you will see a response in the Q&A section of the webinar. Thank you, Mr. Costin, and I will turn it back over to you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Jackson. For the presentation of resolutions, as Speaker of the House, I will call for the sponsor to present their resolution. The sponsor should be monitoring the House proceedings and be prepared to present the moment they are recognized and their audio is enabled by the House Board members. The Speaker will allow a brief moment in time for microphones to be unmuted. However, the time allotted will be limited. Resolutions that require a second should be noted in the chat when called for by the Speaker. In terms of debate and questions on resolutions, as resolutions are introduced, registered House delegates will have the ability to offer comment or debate in the chat feature of the webinar. This will be monitored by the House Board of Directors. In calling for the question on resolutions, the House Board members, House Board delegates, will be monitoring the chat for calls for a final vote. The Speaker will also limit discussion and debate where necessary. And for voting on resolutions, the difference that you will see with this process is that instead of taking an oral vote on the issues, I'm going to be calling for any objections to accepting or rejecting an issue. The House Board will monitor your responses in that chat. Significant objections may require the use of the polling features of the webinar, and I, as the Speaker, will announce the findings. The FPA office has received nominations for a candidate for Speaker-elect and House Director. Florida nominations will be facilitated in the same manner as amendments to resolutions we discussed in an earlier slide. The plan is to present to the House an opportunity for you to hear from the candidates during the first session and then use a voting tool in the House Group Directory for the second session. Deadline for new item of business was June 10th. Which was the last day to submit items of new business. We do have some items pending before the House. Suspension of the rules. To consider an item of new business, 2/3 of the House must agree to allowing the issue to be brought forward. The sponsor of the new business item will be given an opportunity to request a suspension of the House rules. Again, as Speaker, we will call for any objections to the suspension of the rules. If we see little or no objections in the chat, the rules will be considered suspended. If we see significant objections, the rules will not be suspended. Introductions of new business. Once the rules are suspended, the sponsor of the issue will be asked to present the item before the House in the manner similar as resolutions we discussed earlier. At the end of the items on the planned agenda for the first session, I will be calling for recess by asking if there are any objections to do so. Absent any objections or minimal objections, the House will consider itself in recess until the second session. We will follow the same process for adjourning the House after the end of the second session. You may be familiar with our traditional way of presenting our unit association awards, installation of House officers, and 50-year pharmacist recognition. However, this year we're going to be doing things differently simply because of the times that we're in. Obviously, we will not be exchanging hats, gavels, bird cages, or other trappings of the House office, but we will work to bring the experience to you. Thank you very much. If you have any questions as a result of this video, I would ask that you please direct them to the FPA office, to Michael Jackson or Chris Heil. Thanks a lot.